Hey everyone, it's Brennan. Welcome to my channel and welcome to another video. Today I have a quick take for you on Penelope Douglas's Devil's Knot series. You could also read this as a new adult romance recommendation, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get into Devil's Knot. First up, let's talk about these earrings. They're from Luna Company. I'll link the Instagram for her below. But other than for the fact that it is October in real life, Penelope Douglas's Devil's Knot series focuses on some events that occurred on Devil's Knot, which is the night before Halloween. This series is set in a very affluent town called Thunder Bay, and it's set up as like a New England East Coast kind of town. Like it kind of talks like it's close to New York City, except they have a Meridian city. But this series focuses on 4 men who have been friends for pretty much their entire lives. And those men, in order of their books, are Michael, who is our main male character in Corrupt, Kai, who is our main character in Hideaway, Damon, who is our main character in Kill Switch, and Will, who is our main character in Nightfall. I would definitely call this series more new adult versus just traditional adult romance because it has a dual timeline and it focuses on their present day, which is their like early to mid 20s, and the past, which happened around high school. So we know all of our male characters, and in each book we get introduced to a new female character. All of the couples in this series have known each other from the past, hence the dual timeline we can use. And it is their stories of rekindling their romance while also following this very well-developed plot in the present day. So in our first book, Corrupt, we have Erica and Michael. Erica's a little bit younger. When they were in high school, I believe she was a freshman when he was a senior. And the year after Michael and all of his friends graduated, they came back to their town for Devil's Knot shenanigans, and we get to learn about the events that sent Michael's friends to jail. In the present day, his friends Damon, Will, and Kai are just getting out of jail. And in this first book, we go back to the Devil's Knot where all the events occurred that got them sent to prison. And in the present day, Michael, who is now a NBA basketball player, I should mention the plot is quite extreme in many ways. So we're in the present day, and Michael and his friends believe that Rika is the reason they got sent to jail. They think that she posted on social media these videos of them doing all of their crazy Devil's Knot shenanigans. And so this first book is basically them plotting revenge against Rika. It is intense. They are actively trying to ruin her life, but for some reason she just cannot get over her crush on Michael. Her family and Michael's family have been close since they were born, so they have just always been there around each other. But Michael has a brother who is Rika's age, and their parents always pushed Rika and Trevor, his younger brother, together. So Rika and Trevor are kind of dating. Rika doesn't really want to be dating him, but their families just expect them to get married eventually. But Rika's always had a thing for Michael, and now in the present day, Michael and his friends are trying to ruin Rika's life, like I mentioned. So we get our dual timeline of Rika and Michael's current relationship, which is tense to say the least, and their past relationship, where they wanted to be together, but their age and their families kind of kept them apart, and we get to see them put all of those troubles in the past. I will say, now that I'm looking back on it, I've said that Corrupt, the first book, has been like my least favorite, and I think I just wasn't prepared for the unrealistic level of intensity, just completely absurd plot. But now that I'm looking back on it, Rika was one of my favorite female characters. Another thing that I really like about this series is that these books are not really standalones. A lot of the times in romance series where you follow different people from a friend group, their books can be standalones, but this series definitely has an underlying plot that you need the previous books to be caught up on, and this first book sets all of that up. I really like that Penelope Douglas doesn't let us forget characters, and as we add more characters to our story, they just start to play important roles as the plot thickens. I would say Rika is the most important character, so if you read this first book, keep that in mind. She becomes so powerful, and like I said, she's probably my favorite female character out of the rest of these books. For the next 3 books in this series, I'm not going to go into many details because I don't want to spoil the plot at all. But in the second book, Hideaway, we follow Kai and Banks. Banks is a completely new character to the story. We learn about her past, and I will say that her past has a lot of Damon in it. So because of that, Damon plays a pretty big role in this second book. At the end of the first book, let's just say that Damon and his friends are on a little break. So Damon kind of plays our villain in this second book, and the plot thickens. Our men are trying to make a name for themselves, especially Kai and Will, who have gotten out of prison. They're just trying to get back into society, and because they come from wealthy families, they have a lot of expectations on them. So we learn more about some families. We learn more about Damon's family, and we learn about the pressure that Kai has felt on himself and how he grows and his relationship with Banks grows. Banks is she's a very tough girl. She dresses like a man. She works in a shady industry with some shady people, so she wants to come across very competent and very strong. We see her soften up a little bit and watch as their relationship develops. The third book in the series, Kill Switch, is by far my favorite because Damon is my favorite of the male characters and Winter is his love interest. In the first book, you learn that Winter is the main reason that Damon went to jail. So we follow their dual timeline to see where their problems arose, and Winter is the most interesting female character in this series. I will not go into details about her because I was surprised about her character whenever I started this book, and I want you all to be surprised also. She has an interest in dancing, and she has had a very interesting childhood, and her childhood is also very much wrapped around Damon's childhood. We learn about Damon's trauma. He has had some abuse in his past. He's from a very tough family who makes a lot of their money kind of like in the black market doing shady business, and Damon is he's a dark character. He has some dark interests. He has a dark personality, and I think out of all the characters, you see him change and soften up the most, but while still keeping his tough, cynical, dark exterior. This book was just so good. It was everything I wanted. The character development was everything I wanted. We need Damon to make some amends with his friends, and this book does that. Also, I will say, in this series, Penelope Douglas is not afraid of a little murder. I believe murder happens in almost all these books, and I was not expecting it any of the time. I should say I wasn't expecting it at first. And as someone who primarily reads adult fantasy, I appreciate the tinge of violence that her books have in them. It just makes them more interesting, makes me more interested by the plot. There is a novella that takes place between the third and fourth books. It's called Conclave, and it is basically our characters planning for the fourth book. Will has kind of gone missing, and his friends are planning a way to find him. I should mention there's a very important additional character in this series. Her name is Alex, and she is a professional escort, but she befriends Rika in the first book, and she has kind of been Will's, not really love interest, but just like best friend and like closest partner in this series. She's an excellent character. She's very strong, but she's also very like sweet and caring, and all of the team, the crew, kind of looks up to her, and she holds them all together a lot. So we plan for the fourth book in Conclave, the 3.5 book, and in the fourth book we get introduced to Emery. You learn who Emery is in the first book because Will has been hung up on her since high school. Really probably before high school. He has just for some reason always had a thing for Emery. And Emery is not wealthy like all of our other characters are, and she was at their high school on a work-study scholarship. Her brother was in the police of their town, and she had a very difficult home life. She suffered abuse from her brother, and her parents had died in the past, and in high school she was just all about keeping her head down, doing her work, trying her best to get a scholarship for college so she could get out of here. But she couldn't help being drawn to Will Grayson III. And when she couldn't return his affections, I don't want to say it broke him, but Will has suffered from some substance abuse, and you can't blame all of that on a woman. But Will and Emery find themselves thrown together in a very interesting situation that I will not touch on for spoiler reasons, and they have to hash out their past. So we follow the timeline going back and forth between Emery's junior year of high school and Will's senior year of high school, and the present day, where they find themselves working together to get out of a situation. That's incredibly vague, but I'm leaving it at that. Alex gets thrown in and she ends up helping them out as well. And I will say the only complaint I had about this fourth book, it is not that it was 620 pages, because I love this series and I will spend as much time reading it as Penelope Douglas wants me to. But Emery and Will's will they, won't they relationship back and forth went on a little bit too long, and I felt like they had more problems that needed to be solved and we couldn't just spend all of our time waiting for them to decide that they were going to be together. But this series wraps up incredibly satisfyingly. Our characters have come into their own personal power. They have been successful. They have beautiful relationships now, and Will and Emery just have to join them. I will say the epilogue of Nightfall definitely sets this series up for maybe some more books in Thunder Bay. And Misha and Ryan from Punk 57 are in this last book some, and that was incredibly enjoyable. Reading this series in the September and October time has been wonderful. There's so many Halloween vibes. There's always events that happen around Halloween. There's haunted houses. There's creepy catacombs. There's crime. There's murder, like I mentioned. A big theme of this is that they have these masks that they wear whenever they do their Devil's Night events. And what can I say? I just really enjoyed this series. I love Penelope Douglas's characters. I will mention this is a dark, steamy, explicit series, and Penelope Douglas is not afraid to involve multiple people in her steamy scenes. I will leave you at that. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in a comment down below some of your favorite new adult romances. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next one.